learnt about our heads, our shoulders, our knees and our toes, our eyes, our ears, our mouth and our nose. We learned to read and to write and our times tables too. But imagine if we learnt about our brains too. I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm an educator with a passion, and I'm here today to share with you the magic of teaching our students about the 3 key parts of the brain. Now, where did this come from, do you think? As I was introduced, been teaching for a long time, I never learned about the brain at school. But let me set the scene for you. It was 2011, and that year, up here, we had the Cyclone Yassi. And my class had been put together after a number of weeks into an old library. And I worked very tirelessly with those beautiful little kids to understand how we could come together and work on our self-regulation and our self-awareness skills. I tried books, I tried many, many things. However, it didn't quite work out until later that year I came across some neuroscience and mindfulness books. And I went, wow, imagine if I could teach the kids about this. Do you think it'd work? So what did I do? I practiced on my family. Not too bad, not too bad. So I took it to school and I taught the kids in the last 3 weeks of the year about the 3 key parts of the brain. As any parent or teacher would know, often we see students fluctuate their emotions on a daily basis. Here I discovered that the kids could take on the names of these parts of the brain and interweave it in their daily lives. The 3 parts that we learnt about was the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala and the hippocampus. Now these are really big names, especially for 5-year-olds, and not to mention their 35-year-old teacher. So what I did was I decided to connect some animals with those names. The first one, as you see, is right at the front of our brain. That's the prefrontal cortex. That's the part of the brain that enables us to think, make smart choices, and solve our problems. It is also the part that we use all day, every day, at school and at work and at home. The animal I connected with that part is the wise old owl. The second part of the brain is the amygdala. It is in the center of the brain. It is the emotional part of the brain that helps us express our excited, positive feelings, but also, and probably more importantly, our sad, angry, frustrated, and nervous feelings. I aligned a guard dog with that part of the brain and told the kids to imagine when it comes out of a kennel, it is expressing the emotions that they are feeling. And the third and final part that we learnt about in our classroom was the hippocampus, the memory-saving elephant. There's the long-term memory part of the brain, and it connects very closely with our amygdala and also our prefrontal cortex. Now, the importance of the relationship with these 3 enabled our kids to be able to self-regulate and be self-aware in the classroom, the playground, and at home. So how did I get this across to them? I told them stories. One such story was one day the guard dog came out of the kennel and he was barking because he'd heard a noise and he was alert. While he was barking, the wise old owl who was up in the tree flew away because he was scared. He wasn't sure what was going on. And therefore, the wise old owl was unable to talk to the elephant, the hippocampus, and share the memories that they were learning on that day. Luckily for the guard dog, he had been listening and he was able to take some deep breaths, have a drink of water, and go for a walk to calm himself down. Upon calming himself down, he went back into the kennel and went to sleep. Therefore, the owl could come back, talk to the elephant, and the 3 animals were connected again. This was magic for me. I had kids talking day in and day out about what was happening in their brain. They were talking to their friends and their parents. One afternoon, I had a parent come up and stand at my door and say, "So, apparently my guard dog came out of the kennel last night at the dinner table." I was quietly reminded that I needed to take some deep breaths and have a drink of water, and therefore my wise old owl would come back and I could make smart choices. Out of the mouths of babes, as we say. Here was a 5-year-old helping his parent understand some science behind behaviour. Another such story was when the little girl said to her mum one afternoon, "I want to go and play in the playground, Mum." The mum turned around and said, "I don't want you going to play with that naughty child in the playground." The little girl turned around and said, "But Mum, Dan's not naughty. Sometimes his guard dog comes out of the kennel. As long as he learns to breathe and have a drink of water, his wise old owl can come back and he can make smart choices in the playground. That means, Mummy, I can play with him." So here were these beautiful 5-year and 6-year-old students helping me to realise how important it was to share this knowledge with anyone who would listen. Thankfully, I developed some practicing with my family at home, and I was seeing it work with my teenagers. I was seeing it work with my colleagues at school. One day I decided that I needed to share this a little bit more, and in sharing it I had to explain how this worked. How did we calm the amygdala down, and how did it make sense for us at school or at home or in the workplace? The first thing I used was to explain what happens in the brain when the amygdala fires, when the guard dog comes out of the kennel. And to do that, I used a mind jar. Now, the jar itself represents your brain. The glitter in the jar represents the information in your brain, also your thoughts and your feelings, and how it scatters when you have an emotional reaction, when your amygdala fires, when your guard dog comes out of the kennel. The magic also about using a mind jar with the students or with a grown-up is that as the glitter calms down to the bottom of the jar, so do you. So does your amygdala, so does the guard dog going back into the kennel, and then the wise old owl can come back. Your prefrontal cortex switches back on, and you can do whatever you were needing to do at the time. Let me ask you a question. Do you think my amygdala is firing right now? Do you think my guard dog's out of the kennel? Absolutely. But that's okay. That's what it's all about. So this is so empowering, not only for grown-ups, but particularly for students from birth right through to their high school years. Giving them these skills can enable them to be able to flourish in their daily lives, whatever that may be. I saw the success of this over 8 years in my prep classroom, and it was absolutely amazing. Every year, new things came through from the students sharing it with me. Recently, I've had the opportunity to come out of my classroom and share this knowledge across far north Queensland with a number of schools. And that has led to even more stories being told to me about how students are able to self-regulate and set themselves up for success. One such story is where a student, who I will call Tom, regularly erupted in his classroom environment and in his playground environment at school. He had physical outbursts that sent him into meltdowns and then obviously caused consequences where he would miss many days of school, which hindered his learning and also his social connections. After learning about the 3 key parts of the brain, he was able to enact and put into practice the breathing, the having a drink of water, and even the using of a mind jar, which helped him to self-regulate. One such story that was shared with me was when he was on the playing field. A call didn't go his way, and he noticed the feelings rising up from within. His frustration and anger was getting to him. But instead of enacting on those frustrations and anger, he walked away. He took some deep breaths and he had a drink of water. That enabled him to calm himself down, and he was able to return to the playing field and continue with the game. Very, very powerful for him. It was monumental for us to realise that he was able to do that without any adult supervision or any adult encouragement. So that is why I'm here today, to share this with you, to help you maybe take something in of what I've spoken about today for your life. But just before I go, I would like to share one more story. Most of the time when we're doing things at work and we see the impact it has in our work, it's fantastic. But I think the cement of the importance of what we do is when it helps someone at home. my beautiful daughter Annabelle, who is currently in year 11, she came home one day from school and she goes, "Mum, I had a terrible day. My mind went blank at school today and I panicked in the test." And I looked at her and I said, "You know what happened in your brain?" "No, Mum." What? The eye roll came with it. I'd been ranting and raving for 8 years, for half her life, I guess you would say, about the brain science, about the amygdala, about the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus. She goes, "No, Mum, what? Your guard dog has come out of the kennel because you're nervous, because you're worried you cannot do your test to the best of your ability. Your prefrontal cortex, your wise old owl, has flown away. She's switched off. And therefore, that is why you cannot retrieve the information you have meticulously laid down into your hippocampus, into your memory-saving elephant. It's brain science, honey, and you have the ability to reboot yourself in an examination just like you reboot your computer when it freezes." "Really? How?" I said, "All you need to do is put your pencil down, take some deep breaths, and have a drink of water. You will watch yourself settle. Then pick it back up and have a go." "Can't hurt, I guess, Mum. I'll give it a go." The following afternoon, she returned home from school and she said to me, "Same thing happened today, Mum. Mine went blank." I said, "What did you do?" She goes, "Exactly what you said. I put my pencil down, I took some deep breaths, and I had a drink of water." My teacher did look funny at me, but I still did it. She goes, "I felt myself settle. I picked my pencil up and I went and I completed the test." "Mum, I can't believe that shit works." So there you have it, folks. My daughter succinctly summed it up for us. And I'm here today to share this with you and to show you that as educators, parents, and even colleagues in work environments, we often say to the people who are with us, take a deep breath, walk away, calm down. What we give them is the how. Now we are able to give them the why. Learning about the 3 key parts of the brain enable us to understand that we are empowered to self-regulate. We are empowered to set ourselves up. And today, I've been able to share with you the knowledge of making a mind jar, understanding 3 key parts of the brain, and now you are able to be the teacher that you wish you had. Thank you.